All right, we're in a slightly better location now with air conditioning, so hopefully I won't have to be sweating while I'm actually doing this recording. But I already posted a video of the top 15 picks in my first and only 2021 NBA mock draft. So you should go check that out first before finishing up this video. This is the second part. We're covering the last 15 picks of the first round. And I apologize at any point if I look up during this video or if there's a cut at some point. It's just because someone would have walked in the room. I would have to cut that part out. But let's get started. OKC. We've already talked about Oklahoma City a little bit in this video. They've made some picks in the past. I talked about how, it's a long-term rebuild for OKC. We're looking at a couple years down the line. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is obviously the one you're building around. You've already got Jonathan Kuminga coming to you in this draft process. So where do you go from here? We're adding Kuminga. One of the guys who I look at with a lot of potential still on the board is Zaire Williams. The issue with him is why he has the size, why he has all the versatility you want. He just does not produce offensively in an efficient manner right now. He had a negative offensive win share, a negative offensive box plus minus while he was at Stanford, and he was shooting from outside, was just not good, 29.1% from three, despite attempting several shots per game from deep. So you have some concerns about the offensive capabilities from outside for Zaire Williams and not the versatility necessarily, but the efficiency from him. But again, OKC, you've got a long-term rebuild in place, and guys usually improve efficiency-wise from three over time in the NBA. So I think that's something that Zaire can get to. And again, for his size, you can play potentially shooting guard, maybe small forward, be a bit of a wing guy. So you can have versatile options here for Zaire Williams and how you use him. It just ultimately comes down to can he pick up the efficiency on the offensive end. At 17, we're not talking about the offensive end at all. Usman Garuba, I believe is how you say it last time. I probably messed that up, but I believe that's how you say it. He gets a lot of comparisons to OG Anunoby, sorry about that, and Draymond Green. Guys who ended the league as more defensive-minded players and guys who developed offense games over time. Now, Draymond Green is obviously still more of a defensive-minded player who's just a good facilitator on offense, doesn't score a lot. OG Anunoby is the other way at this point. Still a good defensive player, but he's becoming a much more dominant offensive force where he's getting a lot of offensive production from him night in and night out at this point. The concerns with Usman is just that it's so one-sided right now. Entirely defensive. You're not going to get much offensive production from him at all. I mean, really, he's just not been a guy who scores much of anything since getting past the U18 level of Real Madrid, the club team in Spain. So if you're looking at that, I just don't know where he falls because he's a good enough player. He's a good enough physical specimen. He's good enough defensively that he should be a first-round pick. But if you're looking to get someone who's going to be able to contribute offensively the next first 2 years of his career, it's not going to be this guy. You're going to pass on him. So I think there's a legit chance he goes anywhere between pick 17, which might be the earliest I could see him going. Pick 17, 16 is probably the earliest I see him going. Somewhere between there and anywhere between there and pick 35. It's a huge gap for him. I like defensive players. I think in Memphis, who already has a good number of guys who have two-way potential, guys like Dylan Brooks on that team, I think adding him to that group would be beneficial, and you just have to hope that that offense develops over time. But I think you can play him immediately as a defensive specialist. Speaking of defensive specialists, Oklahoma City Thunder, you don't have Al Horford anymore, not that he played much for you at all last year anyways. But Kai Jones is going to be that big tower for you in the middle. I forget the player's name. Was it I think it was Moses. I forget that was last first name, but they traded him along with Al Horford to Boston for Kemba Walker. And that was essentially your hype player. He played about 24 minutes per game. I can forget his name now. I can't remember it, but that's going to bug me until the end of this video. But anyways, you lost a bit of height there in that trade. A lot of their work in the interior. Someone like Kai Jones, maybe you can play a little bit of center at points during the season, but I think mostly power forward is where you're going to play him. His size, he's got great length. He's going to help you on the interior in terms of being able to protect the rim. It's just, again, a question and concern with some of the offense capabilities right now. Three-point shooting, he can do some of it. He's not going to do it consistently at this point, but he can certainly shoot from three. Teams are going to have to respect that. You want to continue to develop that for a guy with his size and length because that will make him a great offensive weapon that teams will just have to adjust for. But again, I just think that right now, development's a guy 2 or 3 years down the road is where you're going to need him because right now he got out-muscled in college. That's definitely going to happen in the NBA. He's got to add some weight. guy had some bulk to his frame, and didn't attempt many shots in college overall, only 219. So the semblance of the offensive game is not there right now. He does not have an offensive game that you can count on. It's very inconsistent. Didn't show much of it in college. That will turn around the NBA because you're definitely going to get your shots on a team like Oklahoma City that's really focusing on developing for the long haul. The New York Knicks, Chris Duarte, I believe is how I say his last name, from Oregon. The Knicks need some instant contributors. Obi Toppin was not good for them this past year, even though I don't want to count him out right away because he's still very young in his NBA career. But they need someone who's going to be able to come in and be an immediate impact player alongside guys like Julius Randle. And they're losing a bunch of players in free agency, potentially, including Derrick Rose, Nerlens Noel. You're getting Mitchell Robinson back at center, so that helps out quite a bit. But you're going to lose a lot of guys. Chris Duarte is going to be an immediate contributor because of how well he shoots. He's a great three-point shooter. 42.4% of his threes went in last year, despite attempting 5.5 per game. So he's going to be a tremendous player. He's a bit on the older side already, but I think that you can overlook that because of he's going to contribute. He's not going to be a tremendous star that's going to be able to do everything for you. You're not drafting an all-around player here, but you're getting a shooter, and that's what you're going to need considering you're losing guys like Reggie Bullock, Alec Burks, Derrick Rose. You're going to need someone who can shoot from the outside. Chris Duarte can do that for you. Speaking of shooting, the Atlanta Hawks get Trey Mann. You already have Trae Young to be a point guard for you. Obviously, he's tremendous from the outside. He doesn't shoot with a high efficiency, but he shoots a lot of threes, and he can hit some incredible shots throughout the game. You also got a number of guards like Kevin Huerter on the team as well. I think adding Trey Mann would be interesting because I think he'll be able to play that Lou Williams role for you that Lou has been playing in the past. He's obviously getting up there in age, so he's going to be someone who's not going to stay there long term. Trey Mann can do that for you. Trey Mann can become that guy who will be that backup point guard / shooting guard player who can facilitate and also get his own buckets from three and from the interior as well. He's a bit on the smaller side. He didn't have a great freshman year at Florida, but certainly kicked it up a notch this past year, making about over 40% of his threes. Again, it was a terrible freshman season for him, but he's come back. He's got a floater that can really help you out in the interior. I think his handles are headed in the right direction. So you get some like Trey Mann backing up Trae Young for the first couple years of his career. Maybe you see – I don't think you really see those two on the court at the same time, to be honest. But again, putting someone who's a qualified backup point guard behind Trae Young, who's going to help you in the future, versus someone like Lou Williams, who's still a really good player, but inconsistent night to night and getting up there in age. Knicks again. So you are losing Nerlens Noel, who's objectively a better defensive player than what you're getting back in Mitchell Robinson. Isaiah Jackson gives you some size in the interior. And this could be a guy who will replace the minutes that you'll eventually lose because of guys like Noel, Taj Gibson, those kind of players. Jackson, young, 19 years old, coming off just his freshman year at Kentucky. I think he's a developmental project who's going to really be a long-term kind of guy. Not going to get a lot from him the first 2 years, maybe, and at least on the offensive end. Defensively, he can help you out, certainly. But he's a really athletic player that is going to help you primarily on defense, can use some stuff from the post on offense. He has to add some weight. He's 6'10", only weighs about 210 pounds. You want to see him about 20 more pounds of muscle be added to that frame. He's a traditional back-to-the-basket kind of guy. I don't know if you want to put him on the same team as a guy like Mitchell Robinson when you already have him there. But then again, you had Nerlens Noel on this roster as well this past year. Jackson blocked 2.6 shots per game with the Wildcats. That's phenomenal. So you're going to be able to put that guy in there. And now that you have a defensive stopper, at least at the rim, for the most part. So I think that's a guy you want to have on your team, especially if you're losing Nerlens Noel. Now, if you're keeping him in free agency, then just forget it. Go get someone else instead. But if you're going to lose Nerlens Noel, Jackson's not a bad pickup. The Lakers need, again, immediate impact players. Now, I'm not doing any trades here. I should mention this in the first video. I'm not projecting any trades. The Lakers are probably likely going to trade this 22nd overall pick to get someone, to get some cap merits, like someone just to help you out depth-wise, where it's to trade for another like star caliber player. I think the Lakers are one of the more likely teams to trade here. The Golden State Warriors, who had 2 picks in the first video, they're also likely to make trades. I just didn't include trades in the video altogether. So Ayo, let me try to say this name right. Dosunmu? I messed that up. That's definitely not how I was watching how to pronounce the name earlier too, and there's no way I'm going to get it. I messed this one up. All right. Let's just admit this. I screwed this name up entirely. But he was tremendous with Illinois in terms of just shooting and scoring. I think the Lakers would jump at Chris Duarte or Trey Mann if they fell this far in this projected scenario where they're not trading the 22nd overall pick. But at the same point, This guy's a consensus All-American. This past season, he was the finalist for the Wooden Award. 39% of his threes went in. He averaged over 20 points per game. Good with assists, good with rebounds, able to get steals, Big Ten tournament MVP. Just ticks every box you want. And he's the guy you've seen develop over time. He's a little bit smaller, which you have to respect. He's about 6'3.5" I think we've seen about 3 or 4 guys actually in this first round mock draft that have been about that size. But Ayo's a guy who, I think I'm saying that first name right. I'm hoping I'm saying at least the first name right. You can see the projection and you can see the development of him throughout his college career. And you know he's going to be an impact player. You know he's going to score. You know he can at least do it from the outside for you at the very minimum. And he can move the ball around, gets assists, gets rebounds, does a little bit of everything. So this is your immediate impact player if you're the Los Angeles Lakers. The Houston Rockets, admittedly going back, I don't love my Houston Rockets draft. I'm not in love with it. I had the Houston Rockets. Who did I have him taking earlier in the draft? I probably should have memorized that. Where are they taking? I had him taking Jalen Green. So I'd go out and get a shooting guard immediately, and I'd go back to get another shooting guard here, another shooting guard here in Cameron Thomas. I think scoring is going to be huge for them. You have guys like Christian Wood, who you want to build around, obviously. You have Jason Tate, who was good this past year. But now you want to build around those guys. Those guys, I think you get Jason Tate, I believe is playing your small forward spot, and, of course, Christian Wood. Cameron Thomas is just a scoring machine. He's not going to help you on defense. He's not going to help you there. But he's going to shoot. He's going to score. He's going to shoot the lights out. He scored about 23 points per game while playing up to 34 minutes per game for LSU this past year. Not a tremendous percentage from three, but at the same point, he's attempting 7.2 threes per game, so that number's going to go down the more threes you shoot. That's about 6'4", so decent size. I think you're going to enjoy having Cam Thomas on the team because he's going to be a high scorer. It's just a question of if he's so inconsistent, do you not feel like drafting him? He's going to be a guy who can get 20 points one night, but then just shoot for like 12 the next. It might not be a guy you want to add to this rebuild, but I do think Cameron Thomas, while not going to be someone who's going to go in the first 20 picks, is going to be a good offensive weapon for someone down the line. And I went really heavy at the guard position, as you can tell, with Sharife Cooper from Auburn going to Houston at 24th. Now, Cooper's a guy who, in my mind, is the eventual replacement for John Wall at point guard. Because he's a good passer, one of the better passers in this draft. He averaged 20.2 points and 8.1 assists per game at Auburn. I focus more on the assists. The points don't really jump off the board to me because he did not get them in a very efficient manner. Yeah, but as I was saying, Sharife Cooper was not scoring in a very efficient manner. He's not going to be a guy who's going to knock down three-point shots, and he wasn't scoring very well at the rim either. He only made up 39.1% of his total shots and under 25% of his shots from three. He's also a bit on the smaller side, only 6'1". I think he might be the smallest guy I actually had drafted in this mock draft, and just above 180 pounds. So he's a very small player. The bonus is he's a very good defensive player, and he's a great passer. So you're going to see a guy like him, pair him up with someone like Cameron Thomas. I think you have an ideal combination there. But again, you're looking towards more of a 2 or 3 year rebuild here for Houston. I just don't know if John Wall is going to be part of that when you actually get to be competitive again. All right, Jaden Springer going to the Los Angeles Clippers. So they're saying goodbye to Reggie Jackson. This offseason, he's probably making a lot of money after the good playoff run he had. So he's probably not staying with the Clippers. And Patrick Beverley and Rajon Rondo are on the last years of their current contract. So you got to get someone at the guard position to come in here and make an impact. And Springer to me is a bit of a combination guard because he can shoot threes well at a high volume. You see 43.5% from three this past year. But he's not a really complete player. He's only 18 years old, maybe going on 19 at this point. So it's a lot to work with. He's not going to be someone who's going to finish above the rim. He's a bit of a low block scorer in terms of like he's going to finish scooping up and underneath. He's not going to be able to jump over you. But I think you're going to see him be more of a playmaker and be more a three-point shooter, and that's kind of going to be his role in the NBA. And that's not terrible to have someone like that. At this point in the draft, you're not going to find that superstar player. Or maybe you will. Maybe there will be a steal. But you're not going to find a prospect that's going to have superstar written all over them. So taking someone like Jaden Springer is going to give you a three-point shooting, and he's going to give you the playmaking. That's not a bad deal for the Los Angeles Clippers. Denver Nuggets, Trey Murphy III, a wing from Virginia, 6'7" and 6'7.5". Sorry about that. Recently turned 21, so it's a little bit on the older side. Even though I think 21 is probably where you want to consider average for your NBA prospect. 21, 20, right around that range. But Murphy began his collegiate career at Rice. He transferred up to Virginia, and you have to respect him because he maintained his level of production going up to Virginia, getting out of Conference USA and into the ACC. I'm not sure he's ready for the NBA. I think he's going to be a bit of a long-term project here, but he's going to be ready to catch on eventually. He's got the three-point shooting. He's capable of shooting 40%, I believe, in the NBA from three. The issue is going to be, does he fit with the lineups that Denver has? And I think this is right where he should go. I'm not sure Denver's the right team because they already have two guys who are on the bigger side, who are more of that wing tip players, wing forward players who are going to shoot well from three. So I'm not sure this is the right landing spot for Murphy, but I think this is right around the area you want to see him going. So again, Murphy, 476 total career three-pointers taken in college basketball. He made 40.1% of them. That is a huge, huge sample. You can trust that. Once again, that's something you can trust. That's going to translate to the NBA. Number 27, New York Nets. Brooklyn Nets. People are not going to like that one. People are not going to like that slip up. Jared Butler from Baylor. And the reason I can take him here, it's quite simple. Spencer Dinwiddie might be out the door. Kyrie Irving's dealt with injuries. James Harden's dealt with injuries. You need someone to be able to handle the ball here if you're Brooklyn, just because of all the injuries you've had to deal with recently, as well as the potential for losing guys in free agency. I think Butler is a guy who has 94 games on his resume, 3 years in college. So you've got, again, that sample size you can trust with this guy. And over the last 2 seasons, he's averaged 16 points per game and attempted 6.5 threes per game while making almost 40% of them. Again, that's production you can trust over a 2-year span. So I feel very comfortable with Jared Butler coming in from a winning program and making a near immediate impact. I believe he was the one who had some medical concerns getting flagged at the combine. I think it was Jared Butler. But they've been cleared up, and he's been cleared to go forward with his career. So, again, 27th overall, Jared Butler, good three-point shooter, can facilitate, gives you a bit of speed at point guard, and a backup who can learn and train under guys like Kyrie Irving. That's a solid pickup. The 76ers, I really have no idea what to give Philadelphia. It really comes down to what they're going to do with Ben Simmons. Are they going to trade guys like Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle, and Ben Simmons for Damian Lillard or something like that? If you're going to do that, it changes what you want. But for now, maybe a power forward, maybe a more traditional power forward, someone like Earl Robinson, or Robinson Earl, sorry about that, messed the name back up. He's 6'7", almost 6'8". From Villanova, he's going to take threes. He's going to score, but not score them in buckets. And he's already built for an NBA competition. I think he's got the frame to play and bang right down low and make an impact. I think he's good because he's going to give you defensive versatility, and the 76ers already have a lot of that. But you can always add more, make a strength an even greater strength. So Robinson Earl just has the speed and agility to recover, and I believe he'll be able to stick with guards in pick and roll situations. Maybe not the same level with someone like a Ben Simmons or a Bam Adebayo, two taller guys who are also very good at that, but to a good enough level that he's going to make a positive defensive impact for you. The Phoenix Suns, Miles McBride. Now, again, this comes down to Chris Paul. I don't know what you're going to do. If Chris Paul goes into free agency and goes somewhere else, well, yeah, you need to have a backup point guard. You need to have someone coming to you who's going to be able to handle the ball duties. If Chris Paul's staying, I don't know. Do you stick with the group you got? You might as well. I mean, it worked this past year. You got to the NBA Finals. And maybe you go and try to address some other weaknesses somewhere else. But Miles McBride, to me, is a guy who should go in the NBA draft. He's also 6'1", so one of the smallest guys drafted as well. I feel like he's locked in to play point guard at the next level just because of his size. Even if he has some shooting guard experience in the past. It might keep him from entering the first round because of his size. He might fall to maybe, I don't know, top of the second round. He's got one of the largest wingspans, though, of a guy his size and a guy who's at his position in the that went to the NBA Combine, so you have to feel good about that. He's going to have the length to play. I just don't know about the pure height. He's a little bit of a do-it-all guy. Great three-point shooter. You can see 41.4% of his 111 three-point attempts went in recently. Good at getting assists, surprising number of rebounds, good at getting steals, all per 40-minute stats. So you got to trust this guy. You feel like he's a good all-around player. You just wish he had a more prototypical NBA build. And again, I think that draft pick comes down to what you do with Chris Paul. And one more name to be butchered here before we finish up this video. Utah Jazz at 30th overall go for Rokas. I'm not even going to try it. Before I did this video, I listened to the pronunciations of their names. And I'm not even going to attempt it. I just can't even. I can't do it. I'm going to mess it up so bad. So, unfortunately, I'm not going to even try to say his name, but 6'4" Lithuanian guard. I think I'm higher on him than some people are at this point. He's 20 years old. Solid 3-point shooter. I think we'll see action early in his career, especially if he goes to Utah because they lose Mike Conley in free agency or something like that goes on. I think just adding a backup point guard and extra ball handler is going to be essential for Utah, considering that he might be open to trading some of their shooters to get some better players. And again, Conley might leave in free agency. So adding someone who can handle the ball duties and get just some outside shooting is going to be big for the Utah Jazz. And that's about it. That's going to wrap it up. That's my whole mock draft. We'll see if this video goes up because I have 2 interruptions I have to edit out here now. But we'll see how long it takes me to get this video up. Hopefully, it's up by the same day the first bit came out. But yeah, we'll go from there. So this is my mock draft, my only one of the year for the NBA. That's coming up in a few days. So we'll see how this plays out. But I think it's probably a far more controversial group of players than the first group I gave you. The last 15 were definitely more up in the air, and there was definitely more names that I probably mispronounced than I did in the first 15. But if you want to, head on over to Twitter. Follow me at Sam_Teats33. Tell me what I got right. Tell me what I got right, excuse me. And tell me what I got wrong. Tell me how to pronounce all these guys I just messed up. I just butchered this video. It's a shame too, because I looked up how to pronounce them before the video. I thought I had it down. I guess I didn't. Yeah, but anyways, guys, check me out on Twitter. You can find the link to this article that I'm looking at right now in the description of this video, so check that out as well. And thanks for stopping by, guys. Appreciate you all showing up. And I will see you and hopefully talk to you in the near future.